Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Azagai here, bringing to you a video for Conqueror's Blade, published by Porus Interactive and developed by Booming Tech. This is going to be a PTR update. We're just going to get the white papers for now. I was going to wait until the PTR opened today, but it seems like it's going to be pushed back to the 10th. So for the white papers, there are 2 units so far. They did state there's going to be 3 units. Well, with all the teasers and stuff. So I assume that we'll probably get a secondary PTR for the tier 5 at a later date. But anyway, we have the tier 3, the Helot auxiliaries. So we do know that these guys are coming and are on the are already mentioned on the live server. But what they have told us in this white paper is that these guys have 2 unit traits, the temporary supply and the quick escape. I'm assuming that these are either sorry, no, sorry. Um, these are either unit traits or abilities or related to what they can do. So apparently they can run for battle really quickly and apparently set up a temporary supply. So 3 main points that they put down here is that a logistical support unit with a low desire for offense. They can build temporary supply points that can last for a certain period, replenishing ammo and providing buffs for teammates. Although their health is low, they have small shields to reduce damage from range attacks. However, they are less resistant to melee and blunt damage. This is concerning because yet again, we're going to get a support type unit that's not going to be very good in the long run. They're very difficult to get up and running for the first part, and they're never really important in battle because battle itself is either too fast for them to um, um, battle's normally too fast for them to work, or logistically they're not cost effective. So we had this issue with the alchemists until they were buffed drastically to the point where they're healing like 1% of your health per second or something. No, 5% of your health per second or something. The other thing is that the type of support that these guys are giving is replenishing ammo. I'm not sure what the providing buffs are. Could be a scenario where they're just stronger than the bagpipers. That's going to be irritating because I do like the idea of bagpipers, just not how they've done it. Bagpipers are just never really cost effective because units do not receive a big enough buff for it to matter. Or, I mean, like, we're talking about multiple times effectiveness, so it's really hard to know when a unit is. It's really hard to know how much support a unit needs to give in order to make up for the lost slot. Like, one of the dumb thing is scaling for the bagpipers. Their buff provides like 16% when fully ramped up or something, and you're going you're not going to win in a 2v1 where you have bagpipers another unit against 2 other units. That will never work. You have to break even at somewhere around 6 units versus 6 units, or 7 units versus 7 units, somewhere between there. And anything after that, you start winning. But then there's another problem where the bagpipers themselves are limited to the number of units they can affect. There is like a hard-coded limit. And it feels like it should hit everyone, but it doesn't because the server can't handle that. So again, it's it's a bit sketchy. It's a bit sketchy. So it's going to be the same thing with these guys. So these guys are going to be focusing mainly on replenishing ammo, which is weird. Um, that I mean, okay, let's put it like this. The replenishing ammo thing, absolutely worthless in terms of logistics. There is no reason for these guys to to exist as just as a repoint, as a replenishing ammo point. Because, first of all, ranged units never run out of ammo in a meaningful time. Unless we're talking about special ammo. Grenades for the Shenji is going to be super great if you can do that. Specialty units that normally run out of ammo, I think the Lion Roll crew is going to be one important one. The Siphonarioids also run out of ammo really quickly. But besides those three, thinking off the top of my head, you're not going to really get these units kind of value. And that's concerning because it's just like you either make these guys actually competent in battle, but they've expressly said that they're not, which is unfortunate again. But we'll have to see what kind of buffs they provide. I think the replenishing of ammo and providing the buffs will probably be able to tip them into some kind of strange area. They're just not. I don't trust. I don't trust the developers to make a good support unit because support units need to be almost OP in terms of level of the support they provide if they have no combat if they have zero combat capabilities. These guys apparently have some capabilities, but we'll have to see how strong these guys really are because if they're not even in the slightest cost effective, at the very least, these guys are probably going to be dead on arrival and a very gimmick solely gimmicky pick, which again, Alchemist and Bagpipers are just straight up gimmicks. Alchemists are being abused for their support points, of course. Hilariously enough, if you try to heal paladins, they'll bleed themselves to death, but that just makes it easier to heal, so you get more support points, so you kind of want to heal paladins, so it's really hilarious. Anyway, continuing on, that's enough about the tier 3 Helot auxiliaries. We have the Laconic javelins. I want to say Retiari 2.0, though I'm un I feel like it could have been a cool unit. The unfortunate thing is that they focused on the wrong thing. So this is going to be the third javelin unit we get. First was Retiari, second was well, fourth technically, if you count the Outriders. That's mounted javelineers for me, but if you want to count them, count them. Retiaris and the Galahad Spearmen or the Percival's Royal Guards. I think the official name now is Percival's Royal Guard. Not that I like it. I do prefer the name Galahad, the Galahad Spearmans. But regardless, the Laconic the Laconic Javelins, they're gonna have unit trait called Mobile Ballista, apparently. Long Distance Poke. So these are either unit traits. Well, they're probably most definitely unit traits in reference to unit traits they're going to have. Now, holding javelins longer than spear with increased power and range. When targeting distant enemies, the javelineers perform a running start to increase the throwing distance and power. Weak in melee combat, javelins thrown at close range without a running start deals less damage. From what I can gather from this, they either have one ability that that somehow knows how far the enemy is, or they have two abilities. One is where they do a running start, and one where they don't. Depending on how these things go, you will never not do the running start. It is it is pointless, actually pointless to have control over not running start and a running start unless these two abilities are separate or it's out of your control. Okay, no. Let me rephrase that. There is no reason for you not to do the empowered version if you can help it. It's kind of the same with the Percival Royal Guards, where you never want to actually use their normal throw because it's just garbage. You will only ever want to do the empowered throw because it's just more cost effective. It's good. Um, it's just really good bang for your buck. Logistically, for the Percival Royal Guards, I think they need to change the javelin throw down to 2 seconds. Let them and speed up the animation. A lot of javelins as well, I think as well need to speed up the animation. For how weak they are, for me, javelineers or javelin infantry is just not in a good spot because first of all, they're not good in melee combat, which is one of my main gripes. You have you why keep the Javelineers in a weak position to focus on their throwing capabilities when their throwing capabilities plus their melee capabilities is supposed to be complementary? Instead, their their melee capabilities are never satisfactory, so you'll never use them in melee combat and only ever use them for their range capabilities, which again is already gimped because they cannot be too strong due to the fact that they're melee range units, which is really stupid. But we also have to deal with the cooldowns and stuff. So again, there's not much I can say because we're only getting a lot of descriptors, but I don't like how they specify that they're weak in melee combat. It's kind of cool how they kind of have two different throwing methods. The running start, reminiscence of the Retiaris. If you've seen the Retiari videos, they do a running start, and it's really cool. So it feels like the Laconic javelins are Retiaris, but going to be Retiaris as they were intended rather than what we got. Because Retiari is focused on the melee combat. Unfortunately, Retiaris are still weak in this scenario, so it's kind of sad that we're getting a tier 4 version of the Retiaris that doubles down on their javelins. But those are the two units. I hope you guys enjoy the video. So hopefully we get the PTR up and running on the 10th, and we get to see these guys kind of play out. We kind of get to test these guys. I want to see exactly how much. I want to see exactly what kind of skills both of these have. I'm concerned about what kind of buffs the tier 3 is going to provide, and I'm going to be concerned about how weak the tier 4 is going to be in melee combat. Because I'm never one to think that a unit should only be good at one thing. A unit needs to be somewhat rounded. They're either so good at the one thing that you have to gimp them in other areas, But if they're only adequate in one area, you need to make sure that they're adequate in other areas as well. So you get a rounded unit instead of a lopsided unit. There are definitely lopsided units in game that can work, like the ISG, but they're not fun. They're not fun, by the way, because they're just so shitty to fight and they're so bad to use. And I say bad to use, remember that they kept buffing the damage on those guys that previously you'd only deal like about 800 damage. Now they deal like 1200 damage and they actually start killing stuff. Still, I hope our feedback will be enough to get these guys in a kind of zone where they're fun to use. I mean, like, they're going to be fun to use regardless. Anyone that likes javelins will probably find these javelins fun. As long as the ability is impactful, um, you can normally rate how powerful a javelin ability is by how much damage they deal versus um, how much damage they deal per model multiply per model. So for instance, we probably range around the 3,500 damage right now for most javelineers, most javelins in the tier 4. Retiaries are a bit special. They're the only javelins that do not have armor penetration bonuses. So their their um their multiplier I think is 500. So they're dealing something like um probably like 7,000 damage. I could be wrong about that again. Like sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I'm not sure at um what particular spot the Retiaris is throwing at, but it's either 6-7 or 10-11, which is again then affected by the armor penetration, which is apparently have a negative multiplier at 80%, so they only use 80% of their armor penetration. Um, but regardless of that, these guys will probably need to at least deal, well, depending on how large their unit size is, but basically, if they're a unit size of 24, they'll need to do um, and they're weak in melee combat, they'll probably need to deal at least 4,000 damage with their throws, especially with their empowered one. At least. That's at least. Now, the other thing that I'm concerned about is the fact that they have increased range. If we're talking about increased range versus the Percival Royal Guard, those guys have a maximum range of 100 meters. If these guys have a longer range than 100 meters, that's going to be insane because javelins don't have. Okay, so archers don't have either, but javelins don't normally have a range damage drop off. So these things normally deal full damage across the entirety of the distance. So no matter if you're throwing up right up close or throwing very far, these guys will deal the full amount of damage straight away. So I'm concerned about that as well. I don't like how they handle range a lot. Range drop-offs needs to be a thing. You need to lower the damage the further away something is, because you can't have it where you deal more damage the further away something is. It just makes no sense. It just makes no sense. Now, another thing is I'm wondering whether or not they're going to have the multi-hit of the Retiaris, but I don't want them to have it. Yeah, I've already spoken enough about this. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, but other than that, my name's Zetsukai. Have a nice day. Bye for now.